All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Duncan, and today we are going to go over eReaders. We are also going to take a look at the eResources that PLS subscribes to, where we can find eBooks for our eReaders. Before we begin, we will do a land acknowledgement. Peace Library System acknowledges that we are located on the Treaty 8 territory of the Cree, Beaver, and Dene people and Region 6 of the Métis Nation of Alberta. We are grateful to live, work, and learn together on this land, which has been home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples since time immemorial. We recognize this land as an act of reconciliation, and we also commit to supporting and celebrating our local Indigenous communities while working to break down institutional barriers to make our libraries equitable and accessible. So let's do a little overview on what we're going to go over today. We're going to start with eReaders. We're going to go over the ones that work, the ones that don't work, and then we'll take a look at Adobe Digital Editions, which is the software that we use to transfer ebook files to our eReader. You might hear me refer to Digital Editions as just Adobe. After that, we are going to take a look at the 3 different resources where we can find ebook files. So that is OverDrive, cloudLibrary, and Read Alberta eBooks. We'll also take a look at the mobile app options for these 3 resources in the event that you have users who are not wanting to use an e-reader device. Now, there are many different kinds of e-readers. Today is going to be mainly centered around the Kobo reader. That's the one I'm going to be using in my examples. But important to note is that to get ebooks from a PLS e-resource to a mobile device, we need to download the mobile app. To get PLS e-resources on e-readers, we use Adobe Digital Editions. So it's 2 different ways of getting books onto 2 different types of devices, e-readers, and then the mobile apps are separate from one another. All right, let's take a look at some e-readers that work and do not work. So e-readers that work with our resources include Kobo, works with all 3, and then the Tolino and the Booking Diva e-readers work with Read Alberta eBooks only. So if you do have patrons who come in with the Tolino or the Booking brand, we do have a space where they can find something to read on them. But Kobo is kind of the star of the show. E-readers that don't work, Kindle. Okay, so although Kindle can be preferable for things like Amazon eBooks, the file type that Kindle uses is not very common in Canadian libraries. Kindle books are made for the Kindle device, and they really want to funnel you so that you're only purchasing from the Kindle Amazon stores. So we're going to avoid Kindle altogether. If you do have patrons who are asking for a recommendation for an e-reader, I would point them towards the Kobo. However, if they have an e-reader of a brand that you're not familiar with, the best way to check and see if the e-reader works with the e-resources is to either check the FAQ on that e-reader's website, or we can plug it in and try to upload some files onto it and see what it says. We just got to experiment. All right, we're going to go over Adobe Digital Editions. So I'm going to go over some of the steps that I use, and then we'll take a look at it in real time. So Adobe is essentially a way that you can read your ebook files on your computer. So this can be downloaded onto any desktop or mobile device. For this webinar, we're going to focus on the desktop today, and it works with Android, Mac products, Windows. It runs the whole gamut. But like I said, it's an ebook reader, but it's also how we transfer ebook files from our computer to our e-reader. So essentially, the steps are going to be, we need to download Adobe to our desktop. We need to create an Adobe ID. Then we need to authorize our computer and authorize our e-reader. And then we are all set up to start transferring ebooks onto our e-reader. You'll notice as we go through the presentation that there are different ebook file types. Common ones include PDF and EPUB. You'll also notice that as we download these two file types, they will convert into this ACSM file type. And this ACSM file is a file that Adobe can read and place onto your e-reader. So don't be alarmed if you download a PDF file and it's downloading as this ACSM. It's just being converted so it can be read through Adobe. All right, before we move any further, let's take a look at my Adobe steps in real time. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to search for Adobe Digital Editions to download it to my desktop computer. So I've typed in Adobe Digital Editions into Google, and I'm going to the second option that says download. And this will bring me to a page on the Adobe site where I can directly click into the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store and download it to my browser. Okay. When you download Adobe, it's going to look like this. This is the main screen. So this is the library or your bookshelves where any ebooks you download and transfer into Adobe, they're going to live here. We need to authorize our computer before we continue. So I'm going to go up to Help, and I'm going to click Authorize Computer. Okay. We also need to authorize my e-reader. So I'm going to plug in the Kobo e-reader I have. And you'll notice on the left-hand side here, a new tab will appear that is specific to the e-reader. There we go. So Kobo e-reader. So this is, I've clicked into it and we can see there are no ebooks currently on the device. Anytime we import files onto the Kobo e-reader, we will be able to click into this tab and it'll show us exactly what is currently on the device. But to authorize the e-reader, we're just going to hit the gear right above that tab, and you're going to hit Authorize Device. Okay, so I believe per one Adobe account, you can authorize up to 6 different devices, so 6 different e-readers if you like. But you do need to authorize both your computer and your e-reader so that it knows it's you and it knows when to return the books and all that fun stuff. Okay, so let's find some materials, some ebooks that we can put onto our Kobo e-reader. And I think we should start with OverDrive. So we're going to go to the PLS website. This will also work on any member public library website, but we're looking for the eResources tab in the top right corner. So we're going to click on that, and this brings up a big alphabetical list of all of our subscribed eResources. And I'm going to scroll down to the letter O for OverDrive. Now, before I click in, you'll notice we have some linked brochures down here. I'll just open a few of these up. So these have been recently updated. We have one for Libby, one for OverDrive, and then one for Adobe Digital Editions. And this goes over step-by-step instructions on how to access the materials. Okay, but we're going to go back to OverDrive, and I'm going to click on the title. Now, OverDrive allows patrons access to thousands of ebooks, eAudiobooks, and e-magazines. Users can borrow up to 10 items at a time, and each item loan is for up to a 3-week loan period. Now, for searching for titles on OverDrive, there are a couple different ways. We can use the search bar, which just does keyword searching. We can click subjects. There we go, where you can divide the collection into different formats. So I could select eBooks, and it says we have over 34,000 ebook titles in here. And then it further divides it into categories like fiction, nonfiction, juvenile fiction, juvenile nonfiction, and then all these subcategories that you can click in. So like science fiction, and it'll list all the titles related to that category. We can also hit on the Collections tab, and this will sort the collection by format. And if we go to the ebook column, there is a Available Now space. And if we click on that, that'll bring up all of the available now titles, titles that are, we don't have to place a hold on, they're instantly available for us. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to find a book we can instantly download. So how about this one? Michael Connolly, Dark Sacred Night. So I'm ready to borrow. So I'm going to hit the borrow button. I'm going to select how long I want it for in 7-day increments. And then I'm going to hit borrow. So immediately upon borrowing, it gives me two options. I can either click Read Now in browser, or I can collect Download EPUB ebook. And remember, EPUB, that's one of the file types that I'd mentioned before. Okay, so those are my two options, but maybe I still want to look around. I'm still browsing. Okay, to get back to that title, I'm going to go to My Account in the top right, and I'm going to hit Loans. And this is going to bring me to everything I have currently checked out, and it gives me those same options, either Read Now in browser or download the EPUB file. So if users want to read in browser, you're going to click that button, and it'll open up the book in a new tab. Obviously, you do need an internet connection for this to work. But then you have the option to read it directly in your web browser. And there's different ways to customize. You can make it sepia toned, you can change the font size. They have the Open Dyslexic font. So lots of customization options. All right, but let's download the file so we can put it onto our e-reader. What I'm going to do is I'm going to minimize this screen, and we'll make the right side OverDrive, and the left side will be Adobe Digital Editions. So over on the OverDrive side, I'm going to click Download EPUB ebook, and you'll notice it immediately started downloading the ebook file. Now I'm using Google Chrome. If you're using a different web browser, you might have to go into your downloads folder to check where the file is. But for Google Chrome, it downloads directly into the browser. And it's very simple. All I'm going to do is I'm going to click into my bookshelves in Adobe Digital Editions, and then I'm going to drag the file into Adobe. And it immediately imports the book. So I do have the option now that it's in Adobe, it's been downloaded to my desktop. If I didn't have an internet connection, I should be able to turn on my computer, open Adobe, and read this title. But we want it on our e-reader. So I'm going to take this file, I'm going to drag it from my bookshelf to the e-reader tab. And now when I click into Kobo, we can see that the title has been imported onto my e-reader. So pretty cool. All right. Another way that you can read OverDrive titles is on a mobile device, and that is with Libby. So Libby is the mobile app that you read OverDrive titles on. It's a little confusing because it's not called the OverDrive app, it's called Libby, but Libby is the app for OverDrive. So you can download it on the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. And I am going to bring it up actually, and we'll take a look at what it looks like. Now, anything you download on the desktop OverDrive site will appear in your Libby account. There we go. So I'm going to click into Libby. And we can see on my loan shelf now that I have the title available to read, and I can actually open it directly on my phone and start reading. Now in Libby, you can also do browsing, meaning you can search the OverDrive collection. So if you go to the bottom here, this little, almost like a museum icon, it will bring you to the collection where you can start going through the different lists, or use the search bar at the bottom left and search your own titles. Excellent. Okay. Moving on with OverDrive. there's one more way that we can check out OverDrive titles, and that is using TrackPack. So this is the TrackPack catalog. And I'm going to use my search bar in the middle here. So I'm going to type in the word sun. Okay, so this is going to bring up a big list of all the items available in Track, any item record that has the word sun in it. But we want to find ebooks that are on OverDrive. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my limiters on the left-hand side here. And I'm going to look for the type of material limiter. And I want to select ebook, so it narrows my results down to only ebooks. But then I also want it to only be OverDrive titles. So I'm going to go down to my authors limiter and click OverDrive. And now all these titles are ebooks from OverDrive. Okay. We'll just let it load for a sec, and then I'll check out a title. There we go. Takes a second to load. So when you check out OverDrive title on TrackPack, it's going to give you these two options, whether to download the EPUB file or download it as an OverDrive read. I've recently tested this. They both do the exact same thing, so it doesn't matter which one you choose. So you've checked it out. It says it's been successfully checked out. You may download it now using your OverDrive software. Okay, so to read it, you do have to go back into OverDrive, back to your loans, and I'll refresh the page. And now we have that title Midnight Sun available. Okay, so that is OverDrive. Some e-reader devices will have the OverDrive feature built into it. So for example, the Kobo under settings, if the device has this feature, you go to settings and it'll say OverDrive, and then you can directly browse the collection on your Kobo e-reader. Not every Kobo has this feature. In fact, it's only these ones on the e-reader brochure. So a few of the Auras, the Claras, Ellipsa, Forma, Libra, Nia, and the Sage. But that is something to double check, because that if you have the ability to browse the OverDrive collection directly on your e-reader, you can download the titles directly onto your e-reader as well. And it eliminates the need to plug your e-reader into a computer, use Adobe, and transfer files over. It just streamlines that process. All right. Next, we're going to look at cloudLibrary. So we're going to go back to our eResources page. Remember, it's the top right corner. And we're going to scroll down to cloudLibrary. Again, we have updated brochures with step-by-step instructions. But let's click into it. So cloudLibrary is similar to OverDrive in that it is a catalog of eBooks and eAudiobooks that are available to read in browser or on the cloudLibrary app or on an e-reader. The major difference between cloudLibrary and OverDrive for us is that we don't really have magazines on cloudLibrary, and the cloudLibrary collection is not nearly as big as the OverDrive collection. Okay, users can still borrow up to 10 items at a time. They can even have up to 10 holds at a time. And the item loan is up for a 3-week loan period. Now, to search in cloudLibrary for items, there is a search bar that we can use for keyword searches. But there is also this Browse tab. And if I click on it, it sorts the collection into fiction and nonfiction into different demographics. So we have adult fiction, nonfiction, teen, and then kids. And so I could go to any one of these tabs and it'll give me all these subcategories. So maybe I want a teen fiction dystopian book. And then it creates a list of dystopian titles that are available. Now I'm seeing a few audiobook titles in these lists. So let's use our filter setting to find only ebook titles that are available right now. So I've selected my filters and I'm going to deselect audiobooks, and I'm going to select available now. And then when I click out of there, it's going to automatically update for me. All right, so now these are all ebook titles, and they're all currently available. So let's click on, how about this one, Imagine Me. Okay, you do have to log in using your library card and your 4-digit PIN. There we go. And if it's available to borrow, it will have this green button that says borrow. Okay, so immediately it gives me 3 options. I can either read, return, or download for offline reading. Okay, now to access those options again and to access my loans, I'm going to go to my books, and it lives right here. So the first option, read, is how you would read cloudLibrary books directly in your browser. So with an internet connection on your computer. And there are different text options as well that you can change. Lots of customization features. Okay. The second option is return. So it would return the ebook early if you finished early. Important to note that you're not going to run up late fees or any kind of expiry on ebooks, whether you put them on your e-reader or whether they just sit in cloudLibrary or OverDrive. They're going to return automatically at the end of their loan period. So once we get it on the e-reader, we don't have to necessarily take it off. It'll just automatically stop being available to us once the loan period is up. All right, so we've done the read option, we've done the return option. The last option, download for offline reading, is really tiny. It's a really tiny link under the expiry days. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to minimize my screen. We'll have cloudLibrary on the right. I'm going to bring Adobe on the left and click into my bookshelf. And I'm going to download for offline reading. So it's downloading the file. I'm going to drag the file into my bookshelf. So it's been imported into Adobe, and then I'm going to drag the file to my Kobo eReader. And then when I click into it, we now have a title from cloudLibrary and a title from OverDrive on the eReader. Okay. Another way is the Adobe cloudLibrary app, and I'll show you what that looks like too. All right. We can see that even though we downloaded, or rather borrowed the title on the cloudLibrary website, it still automatically updates in the app as well. So I can immediately start reading it on my mobile device. And then cloudLibrary, you can also access the collection as well by hitting the search tab at the bottom here. And you can do browsing directly on your phone. All right. All right. Oh, that was my brochure tab. Let's go to this one. So again, we can also go to track and search for cloudLibrary titles on TrackPack. So I'm going to type in Moon, and we're going to use our limiters again to find ebook titles that are available from cloudLibrary. So I'm going to select cloudLibrary as the author, an ebook as the type of material, and now we have our list. Okay, so to the moon, let's try this one. I'm going to hit checkout. Checkout now. Similar to OverDrive, it's been successfully checked out. You may download it now on your cloudLibrary reader. So if I go back to cloudLibrary, I'm in cloudLibrary now, and I refresh my loans, I now have To the Moon available. Okay, so just another way to borrow materials from the resource. All right. The next one we're going to look at, or the last one rather, is Read Alberta eBooks. So again, we're going to start on our eResources page. We're going to scroll down to R for Read Alberta. This is where it lives. Before we click in, we do have a Read Alberta brochure. Well, let's click in and take a look at what it looks like. So Read Alberta eBooks is a platform that was created by the PLSB, which is the Public Library Services Branch, and the BPAA, which is the Book Publishers Association of Alberta. Collectively, there are over 1,000 ebook titles available from Alberta publishers and authors. There are even some eAudiobooks as well. There is a collection within the platform that is called the Prairie Indigenous eBook Collection. And it's just a collection of over 200 titles that have Indigenous content and by Indigenous authors from Alberta, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan. Okay, so for this platform, we do need to sign in with our library card and our 4-digit PIN. Each account will allow for up to 7 titles to be on loan at a time with an up to 3-week loan period. And what's nice about Read Alberta is that the titles are simultaneous use, meaning you should not ever have to place a hold on an item. They should just always be freely available. Now to search, there are a couple different options. We have our search tab, which we can use for keyword searching. We also have this catalog tab, which lists the entirety of the collection and gives us some limiters on the side that we can use, things like format, language, audience, and categories. We can also hit featured selections, and this is a couple different collections they have. So this is the Prairie Indigenous eBook collection I was talking about. And then they also have this 2018 Alberta Book Publishing Award shortlist. So maybe this hasn't been updated in a while. Okay. But let's find a title to download. I'm gonna go back to home. And how about this one, Up the Coast? So I found a title I want. I'm gonna hit borrow. It's asking me to confirm my loan. And now it's been checked out to me. It's also gonna send you an email with information about your loan and when it's going to automatically return. You will not see this on track. It is kind of separate from the Polaris TrackPack system, which is why it sends you an email. But you can see immediately it gives you a few different options right below on how you can read this title. But if we're still browsing, I'll show you how we can access that again. So we're still browsing, but now we're ready to go to our loans. So I'm going to go to my name in the top right-hand corner. I'm going to go down to loans and holds. And then I'm going to scroll down, and under active loans is where everything I currently have checked out. So here's our title, Up the Coast. So there are a few different ways that we can read Alberta titles. We can read it online. And when I click that, it opens it up in a new tab in my internet browser. Very similar to cloudLibrary and OverDrive. You're going to have the same sort of customization options by clicking the gear in the top corner here. But I can flip through the title that way. The second option is to read offline on a computer. Okay. And this is a very specific request, and I don't think you'll need to use this too often. But if a patron is not an eReader user and they don't have an Adobe Digital Editions account, but they want to read this ebook on their computer without an internet connection, then this is what we do. We need to download a separate ebook reader called Thorium. And this is what it looks like. So it's very similar to the Adobe Digital Editions ebook file reader. It's just a way that we can read the files directly on the computer. Now, Thorium is free. You don't need to make an account or anything. But we need to use Thorium because Thorium is the way that we read the file that downloads when we click on reading offline on a computer. Okay. If they have Adobe Digital Editions, we can just download the ebook file and put it on Adobe. But if they do not, then we need to put it on Thorium. So I'm going to click reading offline on a computer. And you'll notice the file it downloads is a different file type. It's an LCPL file. So that's one we haven't seen before. But similar to Adobe, I'm just going to drag it over into Thorium. And it automatically imports. So now I could take my computer to the mountains without an internet connection and read it directly on my computer. When you first import a title into Thorium, it's going to ask you a secret question, which is right here. So it's going to ask you what your username is, and the answer is going to be your library card number. And it just does this just to confirm that you are who you are, kind of like authenticating your account. All right, so that's reading offline on a computer. Now to read it on an e-reader, there are two options here. We have Tolino or Booking Diva e-reader. So you would click this and it would download the file that can be read on these brands of e-readers. We spoke about this one briefly. And for Kobo, we're going to click on the Other e-readers tab. So I'm going to put my Read Alberta site on the right-hand side. I'm going to bring Adobe up on the left. And I'm going to click on Other e-readers. And my file should download. There we go. And again, I'm just going to drag the ebook file to my bookshelf. And then it's available in Adobe. And then I'm going to drag that file to my Kobo e-reader. And what's cool, now when I click into my Kobo e-reader, I have 3 different ebook titles from 3 different resources, which is pretty neat. Okay. Now, still on Read Alberta, there is a 4th way to read titles, and that is on a mobile device. However, Read Alberta does not have their own specific mobile app. They have these 2 apps, Aldico Next and Bookari Premium. And the reason there's 2 is because each of them has a pro and a con. So with Aldico, the pro is that you can browse the entirety of the collection directly in the app. The con is that not every item is available on Aldico. There's some kind of file issue with some of the file types on Read Alberta, so that not every title can be read on the app. With Bookari, the pro is that you can read anything on the app. Any file type will work. The con is that you have to create a Bookari account, and you also have to download the files directly in your mobile browser. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what these apps look like. There we go. Okay, so Aldico Next. So this is the one that we can browse directly in the app. So I can go to catalogs in the bottom, and I can hit Piece Library System, which I've previously added, and then I can browse the Read Alberta collection and borrow items directly in the app. Okay, and then if I go to the items I currently have out, I can download them. And I can start reading. Good. Okay, so for Bookari, it won't even let you in until you've created an account. There's an ad, but here's a book that I previously imported onto it. And to get this book onto here, I had to go into Read Alberta on my mobile browser. So you see I clicked into Safari, and then I had to go to my loans and download the title directly onto my phone and then open it in Bukhari. So there's a couple extra steps to get the titles onto the app, but it will read every title available. Okay. All right. All right, I believe that is it. We did OverDrive, we did cloudLibrary, we went over Read Alberta and the 2 mobile options, and that is it. The last thing I'll show is just the brochures again. So again, these are on the eResources page, directly under their corresponding eResource, but they have step-by-step instructions on what I've talked about today and other options as well. I had an idea that I would show you the titles on the eReader after we've imported them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to export my eReader and then double check that they are on the eReader so I can show you. All right, so we can see that those 3 titles I downloaded are now on my eReader device, ready to read. So there's proof that it works. All right, thanks everyone. We'll see you next time.